Hello, how are you all? I hope you're doing well. I personally think that the pendulum is starting to swing big time on this obsession with identity politics and politicizing everything and racializing everything and politics in the workplace and all of that stuff. So, we're going to talk specifically about Coca Cola today because we did talk about them a lot a few weeks ago because of their infamous Be Less White training. How could you forget that? Coca Cola, and then another company called BaseCamp, who actually lost a third of its employees by just saying that they don't want to have political discussions in the workplace anymore, which to me is I thought that was always a rule. I think that should be a rule, but people are starting to push back on the racialization of everything, whether it was LeBron James, who recently started walking back his comment on a police officer who did what he had to do in order to keep a young girl safe. He actually said that his tweet right after that officer involved shooting probably didn't help the best part of the conversation, which for him is, I guess, a move in the positive direction. Whether it was that, whether it's parents are finding out about this critical race theory and they're pulling their kids out of schools that teach it. And the thing with LeBron James too, that original tweet about the police officer, the one where he was sort of apologizing about, I guess you wouldn't call that an apology, but a lot of people, he got totally ratioed on that tweet. A lot of the people that are normally agree with everything that he said was like, no, not this time, dude. Like, you obviously didn't watch the video. You can't do that this time. And then even Tariq Nasheed, who is this self-proclaimed, he's just a garbage person in my opinion. He's a self-proclaimed race baiter. He says he exposes racism by baiting people. I guess that's what he does, but really he just sort of racializes everything just like everyone else. So he recently tweeted out a video of this Holiday Inn employee who was clearly having a mental breakdown and tried to racialize it. And even he got ratioed. A lot of people that normally follow him were like, dude, this is really wrong. Not this time. So it does seem like a lot of people are just like, okay, enough is enough. And I think that's what's happening with Coca-Cola right now. So let's look at this story. So Coca-Cola pauses aggressive diversity plan after chief lawyer resigns. So Coca-Cola, for the past year, they've been going really woke and really political. It started a few months ago when an employee leaked an internal training that was basically, it was a training associated with Robin DiAngelo, who wrote the book White Fragility. And Robin DiAngelo literally calls herself a racist. So why all these companies and all these schools are hiring her and paying her big bucks to come in and do diversity trainings and racial trainings in their companies, I have no idea, because she is a self-proclaimed racist. But anyway, this training was associated with Robin DiAngelo, and it told people how to be less white, and whiteness was associated with oppression and all of these things, basically white people bad, and tried to teach their employees to be less white. So that leaked, and it was a huge story. I think they pulled the training out, but a lot of conservatives and a lot of regular people that just are not down with that kind of stuff started boycotting Coke. They had to get political again by chiming in on the whole Georgia voter reform bill. So this voter bill in Georgia is basically trying to make it easier to vote, harder to cheat. It expands early voting. It expands the voting time. It helps with absentee voting and mail-in voting. But the biggest thing on it that people are against is voter ID. And people are saying that voter ID is going back to the Jim Crow days. Voter ID is racist. It's voter suppression. So basically, they're saying that if you are for voter ID, you're for voter suppression, because apparently to them, certain groups of people or certain races have a harder time getting their ID, I guess. And Coca-Cola was one of those companies that was basically that wanted the MLB to boycott Atlanta, and they came out against Atlanta saying Georgia passing this is racist, basically. And what I would have to say to anyone that thinks that a certain group of people is not capable of getting an ID, like, just think about what you're saying. Like, really think about what you're saying. And if you really want to break it down, if a voter ID law suppresses anyone, it would actually be poor white people that live in rural areas that don't have easily accessible DMVs and that don't have access to public education, or not public education, I'm sorry, that don't have access to public transportation like you do at a much higher rate in urban areas. So it just doesn't really make any sense. And that was just one more thing. People were just tired of companies being woke and having to inject politics into everything and having to racialize everything. I guess all of that wasn't enough for Coca-Cola. They had to go even farther. So their chief lawyer came up with this diversity plan. And in this diversity plan, I'll read it for you. But so under the plan, any law firm seeking to do business with Coca-Cola was required to commit to at least 30% of billed time would be from diverse attorneys, and at least half of that time would be from Black attorneys. And they say the hard truth is that our profession is not treating the issue of diversity and inclusion as a business imperative, he says. We have a crisis on our hands, and we need to commit ourselves to specific actions that will accelerate the diversity of legal profession. Well, I guess they started getting complaints because apparently this is against the law. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, you cannot discriminate or hire based on race. So apparently the gentleman who came up with this plan has resigned, and it's temporarily on pause because oops, it's illegal. Small, really loud group of people that sit at home all day and type on Twitter, and for some reason all these huge corporations and these big companies are caving to this small group of people without realizing that conservatives and regular people, they spend money. They spend a lot of money, and you're in a business. It's your bottom line. What should matter more than anything is the bottom line, not being woke and virtue signaling for people who don't want to care or who don't want to hear it from you anyway. Don't need my soap to denounce white supremacy. Maybe you do, but I don't. I could care less where my soap stands politically as long as it does the job. But here's another company. I don't know if you guys heard about BaseCamp. So BaseCamp, they're like an email management software company. And apparently a while back, they started this like diversity and inclusion group because a lot of people were complaining about this internal list that they had going around where they kind of had silly names for some of their customers. And apparently some of the names were like Asian and African sort of related. So people were saying, you know what, this is a really serious problem. We have this list going on. This is not good, like work culture. So the CEO and I guess the co-founder were like, okay, we'll make this little inclusion group. You know, they sort of caved to the mob a little bit and said, okay, let's make this group, let's make this culture right. And it just went off the deep end. Politics started being a big talk, and within the company, people started talking about how the country is a supremacist country. You know the whole drill. You know where that went. And it just started snowballing from there. And they made this group about a year ago and realized, you know what, this isn't helping our company. This isn't helping our productivity. So they sent out a huge memo and they had a meeting basically saying, we're going to make some changes moving forward. We're not going to have this group. We're actually going to stop discussion of politics at work. So no social justice, no politics at work. If you want to use your personal messaging to talk about things privately, you can do that, but we're not going to have it in a public arena at work. They say it makes people uncomfortable. It always goes to a place that's not good, and it doesn't help productivity, and they want work to be centered around the product and making a good product. They also got rid of a few other things. I think one of them was this benefits program where they have like paternal benefits and wellness benefits and gym benefits, and they say we're still going to have benefits, but it's going to be just in one large pot with time off or something like that. And they say we don't want to dictate how you use your benefits. We'll give you the value of those benefits and you use it however you want. Those were two of the main things, and people went nuts. They had a meeting about this. Some people cried. People got really upset. 30% of the company quit, which to me is very telling. I'm sure a lot of these individuals that quit are probably making like 6 figures a year. And it's very much a latte, a first world problem. My company doesn't let me talk about politics and social justice. Oh my gosh, I need to quit and make a stand. You are so brave. But hey, I think the company actually did a really smart thing, and they got rid of probably some really annoying employees. But once you like open the door for this kind of stuff, you just sort of open the floodgates. And I'm sure these CEOs, they don't give a crap about social justice. They were probably just trying to do the right thing and trying to stay out of trouble, and it always backfires. You cannot even cave a little bit to the mob. Once you give them an inch, they take a mile, and it keeps going. So I feel like this company made a really good decision and probably got rid of some employees that they might not want anyway. Maybe they'll get employees that actually want to focus on work. My email software, just stick to email software. Anyway, let me know what you all think about everything, and I'll see you later. Bye.